Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here on Friday. I know we do these talks on Fridays, so it's a difficult day. But these are also recorded and they are available on our website. And in fact, if you put the word ease of research, our seminar series comes up. So I'm Davila. I'm the Vice Chair of Research, and I am very excited today to welcome our Research Compliance and Regulatory Affairs colleagues. You have met Deepika before. Deepika has the big role of looking at all the regulatory affairs at the Emory University level. So we are really thankful, Deepika, that you're able to take time out for us. Deepika will be joined today by Maria, who has been leading this effort on the compliance and regulatory affairs side. And I have had discussions with her before, or with both of them, about how important it is that we are aware of what is already there and what's coming. And, this is going to be informal during the talk. If you have questions, please go in the chat, raise your hand. It's a small enough group where I think it should be quite interactive. We also have Liberate joining us from the team. And Maria and Liberate, if you want to do a little more introduction about your exact roles, that will be wonderful as well. But I'll let you get started. Thank you.
Thank you. So good afternoon. My name is Liberate Nickerson. I'm the program administrator for the Program Effectiveness and Assurance Unit within RCRA. I work closely with Deepika and Maria on investigations. We'll get into some of those types of investigations as we go into the presentation, and also with the research policy updates. I also manage minors participating in research activities at Emory as well.
And I'm Maria Davila. I'm the Deputy Research Integrity Officer and Director of the Office of Research Integrity. As Lebrit said, we work very closely on research non-compliance, but my office as well takes care of research integrity issues that we're going to present today. And we also manage escrow that we're also going to introduce today to you, among other things. And we're very excited to be here sharing this presentation with you all.
Thank you so much. Deepika, did you have anything to start off with, or should we just go into the presentation?
Yeah, sure. I can start us off. I think I've met almost everybody online. So thanks again for joining us and making us a part of your day. I'm Deepika Bhatia. I'm the Associate VP for Research Compliance and Regulatory Affairs. I also serve as a Research Integrity Officer and Chief Research Security and Research Compliance Officer for Emory. So that means in this very volatile research regulatory landscape, if somebody were to get into the orange, the first line of contact would be me. And that's why I like to make sure that we have awareness around policies, regulatory items, how research compliance can help support you, assist you, provide you some guidance with the many changes that we are looking at. And so one of the things that you'll see us talking through is giving you a little bit of a snapshot about what are some of the services that the research compliance team provides. We also wanted to give you a snapshot of upcoming as well as new federal regulatory guidelines, some recent Emory research policies that have been published, and then, of course, walk through. We are in our first week of Insight implementation. So we wanted to provide some pointers there, take back some questions if y'all are having those. But we can't not talk about Insight, given that we are living and breathing it as part of our Emory research compliance infrastructure. And then we also wanted to talk a little bit about preventing research misconduct. What do research non-compliance investigations look like? What is external reporting around research non-compliance investigations? And we have a fun case study. So hopefully we'll get time for that. But As Dr. Lama was mentioning, it's a very informal session. We have slides. We'll be sharing those. But if you all have questions, stop us in between. We would love to make it more of an informal discussion. But we have lots of content as always to share with all of you. And we host these Ask RCRA sessions on the second Tuesday of every month at noon. So in case you all haven't joined us for one before, we have one that's coming up on Tuesday. So please register, join us. We have lots of great updates from our global engagement team this time, and then also sharing some federal research policy updates and some NIH guidelines that are coming up our way starting October 1.
So Deepika, these are RCRA, which are happen every second Tuesday of the month, you said?
Yes, every second
Okay.
Tuesday of the month at
Okay.
noon, and these are
Okay.
called Ask RCRA forums.
Okay, excellent. We will make sure we look up the information and maybe put it in the chat, or we will also, put it on our website or put it in the newsletter. Thank you for letting us know about that. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And so here's just a quick overview of some of our offices. I'm sure you have either met the leaders from these offices, and or worked with many of the research team members from these offices as well. So with me, as you all saw, are Maria and Labrit, and they are our research leadership group from Research Integrity as well as from Program Effectiveness and Assurance. You've met Esmeralda Meyer before. She's from our iCook team, and I think I owe it to the rest of our teams, the COI, as well as our Export Control and Research Cybersecurity Unit. So that will be our phase 3, and I'm self-inviting myself, Viva, to one of the next town halls this year. But it'll be a pleasure to come back and share some more of the updates from our conflict of interest and export control and research security units.
No, absolutely. And that's going to be extremely important. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yes, of course. And we're also the house for the NSF Secure Grant, the first of its kind on research security. So we have national leadership as well as lots of credibility around our research security program, which we're very proud of, which is recognized by our federal agency leaders as well. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just highlight one of the federal research policy updates. It's a fairly important one. This is the NIH Other Support, which is going into effect on October 1. And it on the face of it, it looks like it's very much of a reiteration of an already existing requirement that has been in effect for a long time. There are a few nuances in conversations with federal agencies. So I was at a Department of Energy conference last week, and there were other counterintelligence folks from DoD as well as from NIH and NSF. And they're focusing on a few things as part of what NIH is doing and what other agencies are also doing as part of proposal reviews. And authorship and visiting scholars. That came up as a recurring theme, that if somebody is an author on a publication and that author has direct collaborations that could be red flags, say with a country of concern like China, or an indirect collaborator who has concerns through a malign foreign talent program, for example. But federal agencies are picking that up as part of their proposal reviews. And we use, fortunately, the same software that NIH, NSF, DARPA, DoD use for our research security reviews. So if y'all have the NIH Other Support reflecting almost identical to what almost 100% identical to what your inside disclosure profile will look like, then it gives us a heads up of, hey, these are the things that we are looking at, we are screening, and if there's anything that might get flagged, we can proactively address that to making sure that the other support is comprehensively documented for the agency's review.
So, Deepika, I don't think we have started putting external consulting in the other support yet. Is that something which is already active? Or
Yeah,
is
so
it going to...
if it's research related, it does need to get included.
So let me ask you a question. A lot of people are on advisory boards. They do mainly advisory boards or consulting for pharmaceutical company, will that be considered research related?
If not on the face of it, so if say you're consulting for Pfizer and you also have a research study that you're a part of or you're leading with Pfizer, then that
Then.
research relatedness comes into effect.
Okay, perfect. That makes good sense. Thank you.
Yes,
So I
of
think
course.
people are going to have questions about that. Is there a place where they can reach out to get some information? Like, every person's portfolio could look a little different.
Right, absolutely. So if we can go to the next slide, we are actually hosting a series of webinars that we started last month. And so we have a few other webinar series that are coming up on, there's one next week, and then there's one on the 19th and one on the 26th. And if Libretto Maria, if y'all can put the registration link into the chat, that'll be very helpful. So that we can get anyone who's interested in signing up for the webinars. So there's the opportunity to, of course, ask questions, get one-on-one support there. One of the other things that we're doing in addition to the webinars is also adding the training that we're providing during the webinars into Brainier. And while NIH hasn't made this mandatory yet, there are signals that we are getting that there will be a requirement for institutions to be able to provide verification of the NIH other support training. So we're gearing up to make sure that we have verification mechanisms for recording and reporting training if we were to be asked for that documentation from NIH.
Quick question. Have we included RAS pre-award people or post-award, whosoever will be the right person, in these training sessions? Because a lot of times our first contact is our RAS person, right? They look at our post-award person sends our other support documents or
Right.
so yeah. Are we making sure that they are registered or being trained in these disclosure requirements?
Yeah, so we've been communicating these webinars through our research compliance listserv, and I know at least all of the RAS directors are part of that listserv because they've been great partners and have attended our sessions, Ask RCRA sessions before. It's also on our website. It's going out into the external newsletter. It also went into the School of Medicine listserv. So I know DOM had a newsletter that this information was included in. So there's various avenues that it is we are disseminating this information, but happy to include others if we haven't thought of.
No, thank you, Deepika. I'll check with Lindsay and make sure that all our RAS personnel have undergone this training. And I'm sure that Lindsay must have made sure of that. Sorry, let's carry on. I'm diverting, but that was important because.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next slide. So as I mentioned, we were going to talk about Insight. And so we do have the Insight disclosures module that went live along with humans as well as agreements this past Friday. And just like we had an e-disclose, we have conflict of interest that can be disclosed through the My Update section in Insight. We have foreign affiliations that are included as part of external activity reporting as well as part of My Updates. And then we also have a travel form. The travel form is very different than it was in e-disclose. It's much more comprehensive. It captures a lot more detail just based on regulatory requirements that we are seeing, as well as the ongoing focus on research security and foreign affiliations to be able to have international collaborations, but not have them interfere with the research landscape. And so we do have a couple of links over here because we have a really well-established web page for, thank you for confirming, Lindsay, that we have developed for Insight implementation. And I've added that in the chat as well because it's a one-stop shop for everything disclosures module related, as opposed to going to the Insight SharePoint site and then having to find it through multiple clicks. We also have the international disclosure requirement. It's an infographic that we have set up, which gives clarity on which significant financial interests need to be reported, what external and professional activities need to be reported, how they can be reported. And all of these have links to job aids from Insight, so that, again, you have everything in one spot. And for ease of understanding what needs to be disclosed, how it needs to be disclosed, and when it needs to be disclosed. Shanti, I see you have a question, comment.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Deepika. I was going to ask, this foreign travel, is it only research related we have to report, or is it any foreign travel?
So that's a great question. And so for researchers, and what the federal agencies like to call us researchers are covered individuals, meaning that we are involved in design, conduct, or reporting of research in any capacity. And so for covered individuals, the requirement is that if you're traveling for research, business, teaching, education, the federal government needs to know what you're doing, because you're having some sort of federal funding that is being provided to the organization. And so to be able to ensure that we are living through the commitment that the federal agency has, they want to know where the researcher is going, who they are meeting with, what they're taking with them. So it's a little invasive, but we're living with changing federal requirements, as well as pretty aggressive federal agency needs right now.
Sure. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
So we are all considered covered individuals then,
Yes.
Deepika. Okay.
Yeah. And I get this question very often on the administrator side, with our RAS folks, with our ORA folks, with OSP. And so conservatively, right, I consider all of us to be covered individuals, because we're doing some sort of reporting, even if it's not on a per project, per protocol basis. We can move to the next slide. So on the infographic, right, if y'all have any questions or information that y'all would like us to include, please review it, go through it. And it's meant to be a tool that's helpful and resourceful. So we're open to making it more dynamic and adding more information as needed. Moving a little bit on to our Emory research policies. So we have a very solid process at Emory for lots of vetting and approval of research policies for institutional policy handbook needs. And so after a lot of reviews, we did have 3 policies that were published or republished in the institutional Emory Policy Handbook. One of them is effort reporting, and we've got a lot of good questions about what has changed in the policy, why have things changed. So I did want to bring out a few things about, on the effort policy. The main process that has changed is the escalation item. So we do have an escalation process now, that if effort certifications are not completed in a timely manner, there is a chain of escalation activities that goes into effect with the supervisor, the department chair, the department head, and the CBOs get involved. And ultimately, we do have the VPRA, so Dr. Nobles, to ensure that there is 100% compliance on effort certification. And if there isn't, then we have had a few cases where we have had to start suspending activities, because we have to abide by federal regulatory requirements for certifying effort twice a year. So every 6 months, we have a cycle that goes into effect. There also has been some clarity on the pre-review portion, as well as on the actual certification timelines, just so that there was a lot of mixing of what is actually available for certification versus what is still in pre-review or in pre-cert cycle. And so the policy is already up and it's published. We have this infographic type of policy brief on the screen here, just to make sure that there's again, a easy to view, easy to absorb and digest content available for those who like to be a little bit more visual like we are. Next slide, please. Here's a couple more policies. I won't go into detail for them, but there's one which is a new one. 7.29 is a new one, and it's the billing coverage for uninsured as well as injured research subjects. And I know DOM, y'all are very prolific on the clinical research side, so I wanted to make sure that we highlighted this policy for your benefit. Again, 7.29 has been published, and I'll start sharing some links once Libret and Maria are taking on the presentation to share a few more things about some of our policies and research misconduct pieces. Policy 7.81, and Maria will go a little bit more into detail around the embryonic stem cell process, the intake form, the approval. This is a new institutional policy. Previously, we had a policy that was School of Medicine specific, and so we broadened it, and that is also now published in the policy handbook. And with that, I'll turn it over to Maria to walk us through our embryonic stem cell program.
Thank you, Deepika. So I'm gonna put the link also for the webpage of our escrow page. So we want to define some terms, and you probably know this, but this applies to all research that is conducted with human embryonic stem cells, human-induced pluripotent stem cells, and non-human embryonic stem cells, as well as human fetal tissue. So who reviews this type of research? So if you have the first three, then the escrow committee will review only if you are in a specific category. So, if I were to specify that, we will have like a half day of discussion. So instead, we have a link to our submission form that you can submit and fill out. That actually tells you what is submitted. It's also in a web page, so you can check it out. Another thing that we want to remind you is that you need to have the cell lines that you're going to use should be registered with the NIH Human Embryonic Stem Cell Registry, and you can find them here and what are the ones that are eligible to be used. The same thing applies with induced pluripotential cells. So, and as long as that, you need to have approvals by IRB, maybe IACUC if applies, and also always by EHSO. EHSO always have to approve these things. No matter what research you have, if you have used the cell lines before, we need to have that approval for your specific study you're doing. So for human fetal tissue, and we don't have a lot of that here at Emory, but if you were to plan to do some research with human fetal tissue, you need to email us at, and you will see that in the next slide. Can you go to the next slide? So for the next slide, for this type of submissions, you just email us at researchcompliance@emory.edu. If you follow the link that I was explaining, and it's here in our webpage, you can really not only let us know what research is out there, but also will let you know, and you will have some documentation that you have submitted to us and that the form or the guidance have told you that you don't need to submit to the escrow committee. So, all right, so we're gonna move to research misconduct now. And we really focus on research misconduct, really on the prevention of research misconduct, because we want to highlight that that's the most important thing for us, right, is the prevention of research misconduct. But to start, we need to define what research misconduct is. So research misconduct is defined as the fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research or reporting research results. So that means that it's not only in things that are published, but also in proposing. So we have sometimes that question, I submitted to NIH and there's like a possible allegation, but it was not funded. So is that okay? We don't have to submit. The answer is you have to. If you have proposed that and you had submitted, even if you have created it with funds that come from NIH, etc. And even if not, if we consider it to be research or policy covers research supported by federal agencies and not. So if you have any type of situation where you feel like there's or there's a potential allegation of fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, it needs to be submitted to a RIO, in this case, Deepika, who serves as a RIO. So going down to this definition, it's important to determine what fabrication is, for example. And per the regulation, fabrication occurs when researchers make up the data used to support their findings on the sources of information used. And falsification involves manipulating research materials, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data or results, such that the results is not accurately represented in the research record. So, for example, maybe somebody is taking some data out for the data to look better. Maybe they're changing the equipment that analyzes the data in order to make the data look better. So anything that we do, omit or change to make the data look and represent something that is not representing is a potential falsification. And plagiarism, I think everybody's more or less familiar with the term, is when researchers use ideas, information, processes, or results produced by others, but do not provide appropriate credit. So the regulation also specify that authorship concerns are not plagiarism. So if somebody's working with somebody else actively in a study, and there's a publication and one of the authors feel like I should not be second author, I should be first author. And I think that, they're using my research in order to put me as a second author. That's not really plagiarism, that's an authorship concern. So we don't have it here, but it's important for us to note that these things are determinations that are not done by one person or even the RIO. It's a process, and we will show you that later. But when the process ends, the group that is reviewing this information or these allegations consider that there are errors. Humans make errors, right? So if it's an honest error or a difference of opinion and that is found, then that will not be considered research misconduct. So if you have an allegation, a potential allegation in research misconduct in your hands, or you think that there's something that doesn't look very kosher to you, so we suggest, or actually, it's a requirement in the policy, not a suggestion, it's a requirement on the policy to report this promptly. Don't do your own investigations or your own review of things. That's not appropriate. You should report it to our email at rio@emory.edu. You also can, discuss it with your department chair or dean, but all of these people normally will report it to us as well. So it's important that you go to the source, which is the RIO, to submit these things. So if you are concerned about not being identified, for example, etc., you can also use our the mechanism that we have with the Office of Compliance, that we have the trust line where you can do a call or you can do an email submission. We also review those and get back to us. Next slide, please.
So one thing I will add here, some of the information shared that Maria was just providing, and it's a lot of information around how things are to be reported, how things are managed, what does research misconduct look like. And believe me, it's not Emory inflicted pain. It is very much defined by and prescribed by the Health and Human Services Office of Research Integrity. And we get a lot of training throughout the years to conduct these investigations, set up the committees. So that's why it's very essential that we are looped in on the get-go, as opposed to coming in at the back end and then having to redo a lot of the things which we have had to do in the past.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Thank you, Deepika. So where can you find this information and even more? That is in our Emory Policy 7.8, and I put it in our chat here so you can have it. We base our policy on the ORI policy that is also linked in our website and also in this policy. But as I said before, applies to research that is funded by PHS and that is not, so applies to everything. So important things to remember when we manage these allegations. So we want to highlight these things because they're very important for us and for the appropriate review of the situation. So first of all, one of our core processes is the confidentiality of the process. So we ensure that every time that we talk to anybody, we remind them about that. That's required by the policy. And we do that not only for the integrity of the process, but also to not, be saying things that we're not sure at right now. We're doing assessments on inquiries and even an investigation. It's not a determination at that point. So we want to make sure that people do not talk to each other. They don't discuss issues with others because, we want to protect the respondent and the people involved as much as possible. Another thing that is a core, a core principle that we follow is the conflict of interest. We try to prevent that we do a lot of work before we pick members of the committee. And also even when we interview people, we want to make sure that there are no conflict with the members, etc. So we do that, a lot. We put a lot of effort on that to ensure that the process is fair. And finally, we also rely heavily on the, policy of non-retaliation that Emory has that I'm very proud to say that we follow to the T. So if somebody is feeling that is retaliated against, that could be the person that complains, could be any witnesses, could be even our members, we make sure that those concerns are taken care of and they're not, they'll continue if that's happening. Next slide, please. So when we review allegations of research misconduct, is something that is not done in a silo. We do have a very close partnership with the schools, and that school partnership looks like having an administrative official that is normally or associate deans for research in every school that not only are familiar with the process, we're very close with Deepika, so Rio, and ensure that we have a close communication so everything is known only by that person, right? Those people normally may consult with others in leadership, but again, protecting confidentiality, they don't disclose things, to a lot of people. The administrative official in every school help us put these committees together. So after the first initial assessment that we do, and our, Rio determines that things are credible and specific in order to move to an inquiry, the committees are put together with the help of the administrative official when finds people that are experienced and also can serve in these committees. Normally are people that have to be in the same level or higher level as the respondent, and that's the help that we get from the school partnership. Can you come back to the slide, please? The next one. Thank you. So, you went a little too far. Thank you. So, for the inquiry, we are, as I was explaining before, if we have an allegation that is credible and specific, we'll go to inquiry. During inquiry, there's not a review necessarily of if research misconduct happened or not. It's just, do we have enough information to actually review this? That's what we have the experts to review that. At investigation, what is determined is if research misconduct took place. So after the investigation ends, if there's no research misconduct, then we close the process at that point, and the respondent will receive a letter or some attestation that this issue was closed and that there were no found in research misconduct. But if research misconduct is found, then we have to do reportings, and the reports go to the sponsors, or IA for NIH, sponsor research, and also to leadership at Emory. So another thing that is important to highlight is that during this process, we do communicate with the respondent as much as possible. If they have questions, we're always open to answer those. And they're giving opportunities to, for example, know who the members of the committee are going to be, if they have a COI, to let us know about that, and also to provide evidence and discuss the matters with the committee via interviews when it's appropriate. But during the whole time, they have the chance to provide more information, and all that information is always taken care of and reviewed by the committee. Next slide, please. So we want to now move away from this to just discuss the importance of using the tools that we have available to prevent research misconduct. So one of the things that we have here at Emory, thank you for the effort of a lot of people in our office, especially Deepika in schools. We do have now Intiaitve. So it's a plagiarism detection tool for researchers and authors to check the manuscripts to feel sure that information that is there is valid and prevent any issues or that could damage reputations. So specifically what we have here is a tool that is not going to tell you if plagiarism took place or not, but it's going to help you determine if there are some maybe copy and paste errors that people may have, right? You may collaborate with others, maybe with the students, and maybe a student is not very clear about what is the appropriate way to present information. So you can check that, and it's an education tool. So any faculty member can request an account, and we have plenty accounts to go around. So if you want to get one, you can submit your request using this link. And, if you're thinking about or asking yourself, what about the students? Do they have that? They do it, but they do have an access to a plagiarism detection tool in Turnitin that is part of Canvas. So that's available to them. Next slide, please. Another thing that we, go ahead.
Quick question, Maria. Should we be also checking the grants with Authenticate?
Yes.
Because obviously NIH also looks at that. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you can really use it for anything you want. And it is quite useful. So as any software is not perfect, it might have some errors, but you already know what, for example, there are parameters that you can use in the system to say, for example, I want like the intros, things like that so you don't get errors. But in general, it's very useful to detect issues like that maybe the NIH may flag that you are going to be able to resolve before you even submit.
Yeah, no, thank you, because we were in the initial phase, and there are some things which come up, like, if you're quoting your own paper and there are three lines which are together, three words which are together, it starts showing them, but I guess you can change the filter a little bit.
Exactly.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
And one of our rationale for getting Authenticate was also because several agencies, NIH included, still use this tool for review of proposals. And Authenticate also has a feature that detects AI-generated content, because that, again, NIH is one of the main agencies that has a big no around using AI for peer reviews and/or in proposal documentation. Vibha, to your point about the adding the proposals, I think because we have an institutional license, and when we grant individual licenses, it's a very encrypted space. So users cannot see each other's reviews. And so that way it's encrypted, it's a safe space. And at the same time, it doesn't go into the internet either. So it maintains that confidentiality. And so we have a lot of confidence in how Authenticate is set up and working. And we are moving with OIT once they come out of the Insight busyness to get a single sign-on, so that request form and all of that administrative burden around that goes away.
That'll be lovely, Deepika, because I know it was a bit of a getting in. But to your point, it also looks at AI generated parts, which is very important. Okay, thank you. We will definitely start thinking about that, because I know NIH is looking at that.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing that we recommend is that you do your own post-publication monitoring, and you can do that by check peer once in a while. So we, don't obsess about it. We don't necessarily want to scare anybody with that, because we're not, and actually we know now that it's not a requirement for institutions to be doing surveillance of peer. So we don't do that. But if you receive a comment in peer, make sure that you answer it and you resolve that, or at least you're aware of it and you can fix it, or because again, people may make errors. Maybe there's something that has an error in an image, and you can fix it with the publisher and no harm is done, right? But this is the type of thing that then will come to us, or the person in peer will send it to everybody under the sun, NIH, or I, the journal, and us, and then we have to get involved. So we try not, I mean, we do what we need to do, but we also recommend that you check on that to make sure that you answer. And another thing is journal inquiry. Sometimes a journal may contact you and say, hey, we found, or somebody, I mean, it could be the same people, similar people that are looking for mistakes, have complained, and we have a question for you. Make sure that you promptly address those questions if they ask you for raw data provided, just to make sure that that's done, and then you don't have to worry about it. Because we have situations where, again, people are very busy. We understand that. It's not a malicious thing, but things stay fester, and then we get them and we have to investigate. So just to prevent you to go through a process you don't need to go, please answer these things and make sure that you keep abreast of these issues. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a favorite of us. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. If you don't mind, we can move to the non-compliance side, so Liberate
For
has
sure.
enough time to cover some of the other things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Deepika. So I just want to spend some time going over and providing some high-level overview about research noncompliance. Okay, so what is research noncompliance? Research noncompliance may include a number of things, including protocol noncompliance, research finance issues. So whether something is like allocable or reasonable, or someone may bring to our attention the way in which funds are being spent on a particular federally funded project. So research privacy violations or any other research related concerns. So deviations from the approved research protocol, contract agreement, or federal regulations, they will all fall under the umbrella of research noncompliance, as in comparison to what Maria was just speaking to you all about research misconduct. Two drastically different things. So I won't go through all of these, but there are various types of investigations. Research misconduct, Maria covered. Research noncompliance, she kind of also touched on. Authorship disputes, which, as she mentioned, are different from research misconduct. Fiscal management, conflict of interest, foreign influence, academic conduct, it may include Title IX, DEI issues, HR, and depending on what these types of investigations really entail, what the allegations that we receive, we involve certain offices and we pull them in based on the nature of the allegation itself. Okay, so going into a little bit more into research noncompliance and particularly research finance issues. Research finance investigations include investigating issues involving misuse of funds, violating cost principles, royalty payments, or improper finance reporting. So we receive an allegation or concern or notification of concern involving any of these types of issues. These are things that may prompt us to launch a non-compliance investigation. And just to also kind of walk you through the, and before I jump into confidentiality, retaliation, and CLI piece of it, when we receive an allegation or any type of concern, we go through a triaging process. So we look to see whether or not the allegation is made in good faith and whether it alleges specific facts in which we can determine whether there was a potential evidence of a violation. And like I said, we contact and consult with the appropriate leadership or academic units. Unless they are a named party, again, we don't want there to be any type of bias or anything like that. We identify and classify the issues. We plan to assign an investigation team. We do an evaluation. Ultimately, we write a report And we include any type of recommended action, if any. And then we consult with the appropriate leadership team to determine whether or not, and or at least to talk through the results that we have in the investigation report, any recommended action. Ultimately, the corrective action is under the purview of that leadership team. And then I don't want to step on Deepika's toes, but she's going to talk to you a little bit about external reporting. And as Maria stated, we ensure that confidentiality is maintained throughout these non-compliance investigations. Again, Emory has a policy on retaliation. And then we ensure that under the CLI aspect of it, that any person handling any aspect of the investigation, that there's no personal, professional, or financial conflict of interest that would threaten the validity or confidence of the investigation process itself. I'll turn it over to Deepika to kind of walk you through external reporting, disclosure notifications.
Thanks, Libert. So one of the things that y'all might be wondering is, especially when we look at Title IX and academic misconduct and faculty misconduct, DEI type of investigations, why is the research compliance team so interested or having those on our docket? A lot of federal agencies, NIH, NSF, DoD, NASA, they have very strong commitments on maintaining harassment-free as well as an inclusive work environment. And so if there are issues that are meeting criteria for what would be considered as faculty misconduct, employee misconduct, just based on behavior or issues with harassment, sexual or otherwise, and may result in the removal of a principal investigator, a program director, or key personnel, we have to notify the federal agency that, yes, we have abided by the commitment that the federal agency has with the institution and that we have taken appropriate action. NIH in particular has a very rigid timeline of 30 days from the time corrective action is imposed. And so that's where we have a really good collaborative partnership with the schools and departments for those investigations that are not conducted by research compliance, but we have a reporting requirement. And that actually puts us in a little bit of gray area in the sense of, because we have to externally report these issues, we sort of become the party that vouches for the organization that, yes, the investigation was conducted with utmost due diligence. It was conducted without any bias and or coercion, for example. And so that's where our role becomes a little bit more broad in just not being involved in those investigations that are research related, but go a little bit beyond to make sure that we are abiding by the institution's obligations and requirements towards many of our federal agencies. And a lot of the private foundations as well as private funders, they have started adapting these standards as well. So it's not only just federal, but it's also many times it's just any sponsored research activity that may have these external reporting requirements. And we do have a few minutes to go over our case study. So I don't know, Miriam, Libert, if you all wanted to start with the case study, this might be a little bit more of an interactive opportunity as opposed to us just talking and you all listening in.
Yeah. So I'll read the case study, and as I'm going through this, just think of like any issue spotting, things that you're identifying as potential violations, whether research misconduct or research non-compliance, keeping in mind the things that we kind of went over. So Dr. Amir Chen, a lead investigator at American Research University, managed a federally funded project on gene therapy with international collaborators. Dr. Chen routinely revises experimental results to align with desired outcomes with several publications every year. He also conducts human subject research overseas, sometimes not knowing if IRB approval or proper consent documentation is needed. Dr. Chen failed to disclose his financial ties to a foreign biotech firm that stood to benefit from the study's findings. Internal audit also found recently that Dr. Chen's grant funds were misused for personal travel and payments to foreign entities lacking proper documentation. In addition, Dr. Chen shares data and algorithms with foreign collaborators as he has worked with these researchers for decades. So Dr. Chen has a lot going on here. So I am going to move to the next slide, and this is where Deepika, I think people can unmute themselves to kind of just speak. You want to do this interactively?
Yeah, great.
So any issues that are spotted, things that come to mind, what kind of offices do you think need to be involved to conduct a thorough review of these issues? So anyone can unmute themselves and kind of help us issue spot and do some triaging based on this case study.
Shanti, I'm going to look at you.
Sure, sure. I'm
Hard.
So I think definitely the Office of Research Compliance is going to be involved in this. And just from the onset, you can see the first thing Dr. Chen is doing, revising experimental results to align with desired outcomes in several publications. So that in itself is like falsification. I think I'm reading it right, falsification of data. So starting with that, that's one concern. And then moving on to the IRB issues, not knowing the IRB approval overseas, so there's no proper documentation. I don't even know, in terms of the collaboration overseas, how that has been set up in terms of his project. Then, of course, the parts related to the funds being misused for personal use. I think very concerning is all the foreign activities because of the documentation, the IRB approval, and then finally the shares data and algorithm again with foreign collaborators. So actually it brings up a issue, how the foreign collaboration has to be properly documented and done. It almost seems like that's a whole separate thing. And in general, we've kind of cut back in terms of foreign collaboration, I feel, but that whole process maybe needs to be very well defined so that all of us are compliant. Those are all the things I think that I can pick up. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Shanti.
Thank you. Any others? I think those were, very
I feel like
spot
I would just
on.
come to your office because Deepika, you have all of these under you.
Yeah, we would have a much busier few weeks if we were to have an investigator like this at Emory, because there's problems on the research misconduct side with
Yeah.
Conduction of human subject research, with COI problems, not having disclosed things, and also the foreign influence portion, not having a data use agreement. So yeah, lots going on with this investigation.
And misuse of funds, misuse of research funds, so research misconduct. Yeah.
Grant non-compliance, yes, yeah.
Right.
You.
So I think we are pretty close to time, and we have 4 more minutes. I think this was the last slide you had. Is that right?
Yes.
And thank you so much. Again, this was amazing. Deepika, there's so much in this subject, which and Maria and Liberate, which you guys covered, but there's a lot more. And I think this is supposed to be more of an introduction to the office as well. I realize as a researcher, sometimes we just don't know where to look, what are the resources to look for. And I'm sure your website is another area which we should be visiting more. Liberate, if you want to even go to your website right now and put it up there, if you can. I don't know who is managing
Yeah.
we can, just because I'm sure there's a lot of information up there. But let me open it up for questions, please. You can we can stop sharing so that everybody's on the screen, and you can unmute or ask questions or put it in the chat.
I just want to say this was very helpful. Thank you, Deepika and the whole team for organizing it. I actually signed up for is it Authenticate? Is that how you say that? Yeah, I just put a request for it. So I think it's going to be very helpful. And I'm going to share with my faculty also that they can, sign up for that. And I think the pub peer part that you mentioned, Maria, is going to be helpful for everyone. So overall, thank you for introducing us to all the concepts. And I'm stopped.
Yes,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Jackie.
And we take a lot of pain and pride in keeping our website up to date. So please favorite it, bookmark it, because we can't be there 24/7 as much as we would like to, but our website speaks volumes about how to contact the team, what are some of the new things that are coming out. There's also recordings from previous Ask RCRAs in case you all are interested in that content. So both the presentations and the recordings get uploaded every month right after we finish the session. And we appreciate the time, partnership, support, guidance, leadership that we receive from DOM. And we hope to be back soon.
That's lovely. Thank you, Deepika, and thank you everyone for attending. This is a recorded session, so we will make it available to our other investigators as well, and we will see other forums where we can start introducing more of these concepts. And Deepika, yes, you and your team is welcome again later on in the year when I'm sure we have more stuff to share. Thank you.